Hello and welcome. You see it everywhere, right? In movies, in business, on your phone. English is, well, it's everywhere. But have you ever stopped to wonder why? I mean, how did this one language from a pretty small island end up completely dominating the entire planet? Today, we're going to dig into the incredible, surprising story of how English became the world's most powerful language. Let's get into it. So, you might think English was always this big deal, right? Was it always this powerful global language? The answer is a big, fat no, not even close. In fact, it started out as the total opposite. Let's rewind the clock way back. About 1,500 years ago, English was basically a nobody. It was just a minor language spoken by a few tribes on an island. Back then, the languages of power, the ones that really mattered, were giants like Latin, Greek, and Chinese. English? It was seen as pretty simple, maybe even a little unimportant. So how on earth did it go from that to, well, number one?
Well, the whole story really boils down to history, power, and globalization. Its unbelievable journey basically happened in two giant waves. You can think of it as a kind of two-step takeover of the world.
Okay, so wave number one kicks off in the 1600s with the British Empire. They had one of the most powerful navies ever, and they expanded all over the globe to places like India, Africa, and Australia. And wherever the empire went, the English language went with it. But then came wave number two, and honestly, this one was even bigger. After World War II, America steps onto the world stage as the new superpower, and that just launched a second massive tidal wave of English dominance. So that's the history. That explains how English got out there. But the real question is, why is it still on top? Why didn't it just fade away like other languages of empires past? The answer is that its power today is built on 5 incredibly strong pillars. And these are the pillars we're going to talk about: money, pop culture, the internet, science and innovation, and global politics. Each one of these is a huge part of the story, and together they explain everything. So let's break them down one by one. First up, money. This one's pretty straightforward. After World War II, the US dollar became the world's go-to currency, so international trade, banking, you name it, it all started running on dollars. And if you're going to do business in dollars, well, you're probably going to do it in English. It just became the default language of getting paid. Pillar number 2 is pop culture. And I mean, just think about it for a second. The biggest blockbuster movies, the songs you hear on the radio all over the world, the shows everyone's binging. So much of it comes out of America, in English. People fell in love with the entertainment and they started picking up the language almost by accident. Global entertainment basically became English entertainment. Now, pillar number 3 is an absolute game changer in our modern world: the internet. You have to remember that when the digital world was first being created, it was basically born speaking English. The code, the first websites, the giant tech companies like Google and Microsoft, all of it was created in English from the ground up. And you can still see the effect of that today. Get this, about half of all the websites on the entire internet are in English. That's just wild. It creates this powerful loop, you know? To really be a part of the online world, you kind of need English. And because so many people online use it, more and more content gets made in English. It just keeps feeding itself. This leads right into pillar number 4, science and innovation. This is huge. If you're a scientist, a researcher, an engineer, and you want to be on the cutting edge of your field, you absolutely have to speak English. The most important research papers, the biggest breakthroughs, the top university courses, they are overwhelmingly published and taught in English. It is literally the language of progress. And finally, we've got the 5th pillar, global politics. After the war, with America's huge political and military influence, English became the language of diplomacy. The big international organizations like the United Nations or NATO, when they all get together to make these massive decisions that affect all of us, a huge amount of that conversation is happening in English. So, with these 5 gigantic pillars holding it up, the dominance of English seems, well, pretty unshakable. But is its reign actually permanent? I mean, will English be the global language forever, or could something else actually replace it? Well, let's just look at a number for a second, and it is a staggering number: 1.5 billion. That is how many people around the world are learning English right now. That's nearly 1 out of every 5 people on the planet. And this demand isn't shrinking, it's actually still growing. But what about the other big languages? The potential challengers? Well, you've got Mandarin Chinese, which has more native speakers than any other language in the world, but let's be real, it's incredibly difficult to learn if you didn't grow up with it. Then there's Spanish, which is spoken in over 20 countries. But it's just not as central to global business and technology in quite the same way. Okay, but this brings up a fascinating curveball. Could technology just make this whole conversation pointless? What about AI? Instant translation tools that can handle any language on the fly. And while those AI tools are getting amazingly good, they probably aren't going to replace the need for a common language. Think about it. When the stakes are really high, like in a multi-billion-dollar business deal or in a delicate diplomatic talk, you just can't risk something getting lost in translation. AI will be an amazing assistant for sure, but it won't replace that need for direct human communication. All right, so we've talked about huge things like empires and the internet, but let's bring this all the way down to a personal level. We've established English is the world's most powerful language. Okay, great. But what does that actually mean for you? Knowing English basically unlocks a whole new world of possibilities. It can mean better job opportunities and maybe even higher pay. It gives you the freedom to travel pretty much anywhere in the world without being totally lost. It gives you access to a huge chunk of the world's knowledge online, and maybe the best part, it gives you the power to connect with people from completely different cultures and backgrounds. And that really brings us to the final, most important idea. At the end of the day, English is so much more than just a bunch of words and grammar rules. It's become a global skill. It's a tool. It's access. It's connection. So the story of how English took over the world is pretty incredible. But the real question is, what will you do with it? Thanks for watching.